Every year on June 2nd, there's a day that matters more than most people realize. International Sex Workers' Day. It's a date that often passes quietly for many, but for millions around the world, it's a powerful moment of recognition and hope. This day is set aside to honor the voices, struggles, and achievements of sex workers everywhere, and to remind us all of the ongoing fight for their rights and dignity. It's not just about a profession, it's about people who deserve respect, dignity, and basic human rights. Sex workers come from every walk of life, every background, and every community. They are our neighbors, our friends, and sometimes even our family members. Their stories are as varied and complex as anyone else's, and their humanity is just as real. This day shines a spotlight on the harsh realities sex workers face: violence, exploitation, and relentless stigma. Many are forced to work in dangerous conditions, with little protection from the law or society. Discrimination and prejudice often mean that when sex workers are harmed, their voices go unheard and their pain is ignored. Imagine working in fear, not because of the job itself, but because society denies you protection and support. The threat isn't just from clients or strangers, but from a system that refuses to see you as worthy of safety or justice. For many, the fear of being outed, arrested, or shamed is a daily reality. International Sex Workers' Day is a global call to action, a reminder that these are our fellow human beings. It's a day to amplify their voices, to listen to their experiences, and to demand change. Around the world, people come together to show that sex workers are not alone in their fight for justice. They are parents, children, friends. They are people with dreams, hopes, and families who love them. Their lives are filled with the same joys and challenges as anyone else's, and they deserve to live free from fear and discrimination. Their rights are human rights. The right to safety, to healthcare, to fair treatment under the law. These are not privileges, but basic rights that everyone deserves no matter their occupation. On this day, sex workers and allies organize, march, and share their stories to challenge unfair laws and stereotypes. They speak out against the injustices they face, and they demand to be seen and heard. These acts of courage help break down the walls of silence and shame that have surrounded sex work for too long. When a group is pushed to the margins, their suffering is easy to ignore. But when we listen, when we pay attention, we see the strength and resilience that exist even in the face of adversity. This day says, we see you, we hear you, we stand with you. It's a promise that no one should have to fight alone, and that together we can create a world where everyone is valued. It's about solidarity, resilience, and demanding fairness for all. It's about building bridges, not walls, and recognizing that our communities are stronger when everyone is included. This isn't about promoting or condemning a profession. It's about promoting humanity. It's about seeing the person before the label and understanding that every life has value. The fight for sex workers' rights is part of the larger fight for equality and justice. When we stand up for the most marginalized, we move closer to a world where everyone's rights are protected. No one should be left behind because of their work. Every person deserves the chance to live and work with dignity, without fear of violence or discrimination. This day is a step toward a world where every worker is safe and respected. It's a vision of a future where compassion and justice guide our actions, not prejudice or fear. Let's keep an open mind and heart as we talk about this. Let's be willing to learn, to listen, and to grow together as a community. It's a conversation we need to have, not just today, but every day, until justice and equality are realities for all. And I'm glad we're having it together. By standing in solidarity, by opening our hearts, we can help build a world where no one is left behind, and where every person's rights are truly respected. To understand why this day matters, let's go back to 1970s France. Sex workers faced relentless police harassment, fines, and arrests, pushed further into the shadows and danger. The laws were confusing. Sex work wasn't illegal, but everything around it was. Forced to work in secret, sex workers became isolated and vulnerable. They couldn't turn to the police for help. Those meant to protect them were the ones punishing them. The government's policies, meant to stop exploitation, only made things worse. Trapped and abandoned, the women reached a breaking point. Frustration and a desire for justice grew. They knew change wouldn't come from silence. Something bold was needed. That desperation sparked a protest that would change everything. And it all started with a single courageous act. On June 2nd, 1975, in the heart of Lyon, France, a quiet city street became the stage for an extraordinary act of courage and defiance. About 100 sex workers, tired of being ignored and mistreated, gathered together and entered the Saint-Nizier church, seeking sanctuary and a voice. This was not a spontaneous act, but a carefully planned protest against years of police harassment, violence, and unsafe working conditions that had become unbearable. They hung a bold banner on the church's facade. "Our children don't want their mothers to go to jail." a message that spoke to the humanity and families behind the headlines. Inside the church, the women went on strike. They organized meetings, drafted a list of demands, and called for an end to the constant fines, arbitrary arrests, and the deep social stigma that followed them everywhere. News of the occupation spread rapidly across France. Journalists and photographers rushed to the scene, and for the first time, these women, so often silenced, spoke directly to the world about their lives, their struggles, and their hopes. The occupation lasted 8 tense and emotional days, drawing support from feminists, labor unions, and ordinary citizens who recognized the injustice these women faced. The church itself became a powerful symbol, a beacon of resistance and hope, shining a light on a community that had long been forced into the shadows. The women organized press conferences, courageously sharing their stories of violence, discrimination, and injustice with the world's media, demanding to be seen and heard. After 8 days, police entered the church and forced the women to leave. But the protest had already changed the conversation in France and beyond. Today, the Lyon Church occupation is remembered as the birth of the modern sex workers' rights movement, a turning point in the fight for dignity and justice. It proved that even the most marginalized people, when united, can challenge injustice and demand to be treated with respect. That's why we remember June 2nd every year, not just as a date, but as a symbol of courage, solidarity, and the ongoing struggle for human rights. It's the anniversary of a stand for dignity, a reminder that the fight for justice is never over. The echoes of that day in Lyon still resonate around the world, inspiring new generations to demand respect, equality, and the right to live with dignity. At its core, International Sex Workers' Day is about human rights. Sex workers are human beings, and their rights are not up for debate. They deserve safety, health, and freedom from abuse, basic rights, not special ones. Criminalization and stigma strip these rights away, leaving sex workers unprotected. If you can't report a crime or access healthcare without fear, are you truly protected? This day pulls sex workers out of the shadows and into the light. It highlights police brutality, forced testing, and discrimination, real injustices that ruin lives. By focusing attention, we build momentum for change. Fighting for sex workers' rights strengthens human rights for everyone. A just society protects its most vulnerable, no exceptions. Let's talk about stigma, the cloud of judgment that follows sex workers everywhere. Stigma isn't just about hurt feelings. It leads to real harm, discrimination, isolation, and danger. It's why sex workers are denied housing, lose custody, or avoid doctors. International Sex Workers' Day is a chance to replace judgment with empathy. Listening to sex workers' stories shatters harmful stereotypes. We see them as individuals, students, parents, people making choices. Their stories are diverse and complex. Ending stigma means changing hearts and minds, challenging our own biases. On this day, we choose compassion over condemnation. We see the person, not the label. And we work for a world where no one lives in the shadows. Let's break it down. Sex work is work. Like any worker, sex workers deserve fair pay, safety, and respect, basic labor rights. International Sex Workers' Day reframes this as a labor issue. Sex workers should have the right to organize, demand safer practices, and protect themselves from exploitation. Criminalization makes this nearly impossible. No unions, no bargaining, no power. A safe workplace means being able to screen clients and insist on safe practices. When work is forced underground, safety disappears. Decriminalization would allow for regulated, safer environments. Sex workers contribute to the economy and support families. Denying labor rights harms everyone. This day calls on governments and labor movements to include sex workers. Work is work. Every worker deserves protection. Justice is incomplete without them. One of the most powerful outcomes of this movement is community. International Sex Workers' Day connects people across borders, showing they're not alone. The challenges, harassment, stigma, violence are universal. By sharing strategies and successes, activists make the global movement stronger. On June 2nd, events happen worldwide. Marches, film screenings, online panels. This global wave sends a message. This is a human rights movement, not a local issue. Solidarity is more than politics. It's about mutual care and support. Being part of a community builds resilience and hope. It's about lifting each other up. Together they create a better, kinder world. That's the power of solidarity. And it's what keeps the movement growing. What does a better future for sex workers look like? It's a question that's being asked in communities around the world, as more people recognize the need for real change. For too long, sex workers have been pushed to the margins, facing stigma, discrimination, and even violence. But what if we could imagine something different? A future where sex workers are respected, protected, and empowered. First, it means changing the law, full decriminalization, not just legalization. Decriminalization means removing criminal penalties entirely, so sex workers aren't treated as criminals simply for doing their jobs. It's about recognizing their work as work, and giving them the same legal protections as anyone else. Decriminalization removes criminal penalties and puts safety and health first. It allows sex workers to report abuse or exploitation without fear of arrest, and to access health services openly. It's a step toward justice and equality. Evidence from places like New Zealand shows it works. Safer work, better police relations, easier healthcare access. When sex workers are protected by the law, everyone benefits. Communities become safer and public health improves. Sex workers deserve the same rights as any other worker. That means fair pay, safe workplaces, and the right to organize. It's about dignity and respect, no matter what kind of work someone does. Technology is also key. Online platforms help sex workers work safely and independently. These tools let them screen clients, set boundaries, and connect with support networks. For many, the internet is a lifeline, but laws that censor the internet can push them back into danger. When online spaces are shut down, sex workers lose control over their safety and are forced into riskier situations. Smart policies should embrace technology's safety benefits. By working together, lawmakers, tech companies, and sex workers can create safer digital spaces that protect everyone's rights. Real change is also cultural, ending stigma so sex workers can live openly without fear or shame. This means challenging stereotypes and supporting people in our communities no matter their job. This shift requires all of us to be more open, compassionate, and willing to listen. It's about learning from each other and standing up for what's right. The future is about rights, safety, and dignity. It's about building a world where everyone is valued and no one is left behind. That's what we should all work toward. By supporting sex workers, we're supporting a fairer, safer society for everyone. And it starts with conversations like this, by listening, learning, and imagining a better future together. We've covered history, human rights, and hopes for the future. It all comes down to this: be kind to one another. International Sex Workers' Day is about a group who've faced unkindness for too long. Kindness is the antidote. The courage of those women in Lyons started a movement. Today's sex workers keep it alive. It takes bravery to demand rights and share your story. This day celebrates that courage and the fight for equality. No one should be left behind or considered disposable. A strong society lifts up its most marginalized. Supporting sex workers' rights is about believing everyone deserves safety and dignity. On June 2nd and every day, let's choose empathy over judgment. Listen to voices too often silenced. And remember, a little kindness can change the world.